Hey everybody, we're back with some more long form content here for the channel, and this one is actually a very personal topic for me, and I thought it would be very helpful to share for a lot of people out there, whether you know whatever circumstances you might be in. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to talk about. I think I'm going to make the thumbnail here for this one. The guy behind the cards kind of thing, sort of tongue in cheek, but um, it's a real serious topic and something um, that's really important to me. And so um, for a while after around the COVID period time, I took a lot of time really working on myself, trying to create that kind of internal stability, working on the mental health and creating a space where I could feel secure, um, even just in like everyday things, everyday life, right? That kind of was born out of me having experienced some panic attacks and kind of dealing with stress that I wasn't really sure what was going on. I had no idea what a panic attack was, and when I had them, they were um, pretty startling. So once I figured out what they were, and then I could kind of work at it from there, and then chip away at what was causing it and that sort of thing, and continue to work on that. Took me a long time to do that, and progress with that is not always going to be linear, right? You're going to have some great days. You challenge yourself, you do things that had been really stressing you out, or causing you some heartache or that kind of stuff. And when you have those good days, it's great. But then, there's the occasional day where things are a lot more challenging again. And that's unfortunately just kind of the process, and that's life, right? So, um, and continuing through that, you just kind of keep trying to stack good days. And so I was able to finally accomplish that and really create that stability and that security after kind of a long time. After a long time, um, I'd say a couple of years, really. And then what happened from that is I kind of got into this state of um, kind of complacency, I would say, to an extent. Of it's like, okay, I'm good, I'm comfortable, I feel established, I'm secure, and was just kind of riding that out without really even noticing. This is something that, um, not something I was thinking about or pondering on a regular basis. I was just like, okay, I feel good, and just kind of going through the motions, sort of thing. And unfortunately, it took for me to realize that I was kind of just rolling through the motions. That um, it took an event in my personal life that really forced me to take a look at myself and kind of realize and question: Is this really? Are you good with this for the rest of your life? Is this what you really want? And it wasn't. While the security and feeling established and having that good foundation was very important, it wasn't the end all be all for me. Like, I've always been ambitious in terms of career. Um, in an earlier portion of my 9 to 5 career life, I was always, essentially hunting the promotions, right? How do I advance? How do I set myself up to go for the next thing? How do I position myself to be a good candidate to move up and that sort of thing? And so once I had that period of like that stress and everything accumulating, which I think a lot of people can relate to because it was very closely connected to 2020 and all the strenuous events and the impact those events had, um, that kind of created that stress that I think kind of boiled over into causing the those panic attacks. And um, that really heavy burden of stress. So I think a lot of people can relate to that. But coming out of that, I needed to reestablish myself and figure out, okay, what are we doing going forward? Because while I feel good and I'm, in a much better place, I want more. I want more things. I want to be able to travel. I want a real significant financial security. That's something I've always strived for and never really saw a clear path. And I'm not sure it's necessarily a clear path here, but what all that hard work and laying that groundwork and being able to now be more secure and comfortable and confident myself has shown me is that now I can start to take more chances. I can start to reach for those ambitions and you know start challenging myself again. I would say a big part of it is living out of fear, right? And the fear will play on your anxieties. And since I had so much and so long of a period where those anxieties played a really big part in my everyday life, when you allow your fears to kind of feed on that, it just keeps going, and that'll keep you kind of stagnant. That'll keep you complacent easily. And so, I've, like I said, the personal event in my life that occurred really forced me to take a look at the life I'm living right now, and if I would be comfortable with that being it for the rest of my life. And honestly, no. Just kind of year over year, maybe a little bit of an increase here or there as far as salary and that kind of thing, but no, it's not, and it never was. It was just a place allowing me to get to that stability. And so now, to tie that back into the business here, is that I feel more confident in my abilities to handle things and having a clear mind and achieving that clarity that we can do this. I can take on a new challenge and step out of my comfort zone and you know expose myself to some discomfort that would come along with growing in a new challenge. So um, that has been huge, and I just wanted to share this message because I think a lot of people can relate as far as anxieties around 2020 and everything that happened with COVID and everything there, and then trying to just recreate that stability, and then also people just feeling like they're in a place where they're just stagnant. Sort of that complacency is settled in a little bit, and maybe inspire some people to kind of take a look and say, what? And I'm not saying, go quit your job or anything like that, but I mean, like, start pursuing stuff. You can do that on the side. Start challenging yourself. Don't let the fear control you. And I'd say the biggest part is the revelation that I've had is of how much I've allowed fear, especially with all those anxieties, how much I've allowed fear to kind of direct my life. All sorts of different areas, money, being fearful about money, about failure, about people judging you, all those things. I've let it control me for too long. And so that's what kind of led me um, to wanting to start the business, but then now, like, pushing even more into it, really leaning in. It's not that it was like just a hobby or anything to start out with, but yeah, that event made me really look at it and be like, you know what? Okay, it's time to lock in, and I feel like I'm in a really good place to be able to do that. And so, um, that's where I am now. That's where we're pushing. 2026 is going to be a great year for us. We're already off to a really good start. We finished 2025 pretty strong. So I'm really excited about everything coming down the line for us. So I appreciate you all the support we've had so far. It's been amazing. Just make sure you're subscribed here. You're following us on any of the platforms: Instagram, Scrow Rips, TikTok. We're doing lives. We're doing live rips. I'm gonna go live here soon today. And I've met some great people so far along the way, and I can't wait to keep meeting more and keep establishing and developing the community here. Make sure you check out our website. We're gonna have a lot of good stuff coming through on the website, um, and I'm gonna get to that in another video here, and so you're gonna have to watch that as well. And yeah, scrowrips.com. Appreciate you guys. This has been an awesome experience so far. Learning a lot. Sometimes the hard way, which is unfortunate, but sometimes those are the lessons that prove the most valuable. So I appreciate you guys checking us out and watching the content. So appreciate you.